information about our CWA program. That's the Community Wellbeing Ambassador Program. We help with CPR, trauma-informed care. We have youth mental health first aid. We have neurologic classroom, recognizing and recovering from normalized trauma. And we also have the FCC program, which is the Future Culture Creator Program, where we help teens get ready for the workforce. It's a paid internship where we basically train them every day for about 13 weeks. And they go through a process. We help them with resume building, cover letter building, and we help them get jobs.
And education program. It is funded by the Division of Public Health. Our goal is to educate middle school kids about the dangers of tobacco use. It is free and open to the public. Consider joining our force today. We meet once a month on third Monday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Would you like to play our paper? Alright, Charlie. How many e-cigarettes flavors are there now? Every touch you need, give you all, give you all you need. So we are for Delaware residents only. We help those that either have no insurance or are underinsured, give them cancer screenings, and that little book that we have covers usually everything that we do. And we also help those get a health provider at a low cost. And we are located in all counties in Delaware.
Navigator at Shadow Health, and I'm here to do screenings, prostate screening, the importance of doing health screenings for your health to keep healthy. So and also any other concerns, like if you smoke, we want to make sure that you use resources in the community to try to quit the habit. We do also lung screening. So, and if you do have cancer, if you have any questions or concerns in nutrition and the importance of nutrition, any questions, please come up.
I'll start with a couple of questions. I'll start with some ground rules. We're just having this discussion just to kind of encourage men and young men just to talk. Okay? We find that men don't often talk and they don't often get a platform to share things that they feel are important to them. So today, that's kind of what we wanted to do. So with our first question, and I will open it up to the floor so it's not to anyone specific. In what ways do you control your anger? So we know now in the culture that we live in, we've had 5, if I'm not mistaken, murders in Sussex County within 1 week, right? And most of them were under the age of 25, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was one gentleman in Kent County who was in his 40s, but most of them have been young males. So obviously there's an issue with anger. So what are some ways that you guys feel you control your anger or would like to see other people control their anger?
So I could say for me, one, just understanding how God views it. Like I know the Bible says, be angry and sin not. But for me, it's like, I know I'm going to get judged for my response, my reaction to things, not what somebody else did. A lot of times the things you get mad about is pointless. Like I know a lot of people that they deal with the violence and the gangs and all that stuff, so it's a cool thing now, like that murderous spirit, that hateful spirit, like a cool thing now. It's like, I don't know, it's just more prayer, more just submitting to the spirit, and more just understanding that, like the things that somebody's trying to provoke you to do, it's pointless to even entertain that. Just focus on what you need to focus on, and keep your level head, because at the end of the day, you gotta report to God when it's all said and done. So.
Coming from an older generation, I was one of those quick-tempered kids that got in a lot of fights. And even a couple years ago, my mom was asking me, why are you so angry? And you can't always put your finger on it, but in hindsight, you know, what God dropped in my spirit is, you know, a lot of this anger and violence comes from a lack of identity. Because if I don't know who I am and you call me out of my name, now I'm mad because you try to put a different label on me. And pride, men are based a lot of what they do on respect. So if you fear me, that's respect. No. But the way that the mindset is framed in society right now, you know, I gotta be hard, I gotta be tough. And that hasn't changed in 30, 40 years, because when I was coming up as a teenager, you know, it was always about respect. It was always about being hard. It was, you know, before I got saved, I remember, you know, watching certain movies. There's this one that comes to mind, and there was this character called Odo, and he killed somebody just because they asked him a random question. And I remember my buddies were like, yo, Odo's hard, and like we were enjoying the movie because we were so lost in those moments watching it. But then you look back and you're like, that was a life, you know, and the more that it's portrayed on TV, and the more society kind of shrugs it off. I heard this one gospel rapper said we always want to glorify murder until a cop does it. You know, there's a guy named Bizzle, Christian rapper, and so if you listen, you'll realize that it's being taught, unfortunately, and so we have to, you know, exemplify something different. You know, and when we know who we are, we can't be provoked by who we're not.
I'm just gonna agree with what they said, to be honest. I grew up not having really anger issues, but as I grew up, you know, just listen to the music, just listen to the music, how they pretty much on our youth and stuff like that. I pretty much can kind of relate to what you're saying. It's a lot I can say about it, but like I said, they pretty much said what I was thinking.
So, Deacon Hampton, you mentioned a really good point, knowing your identity, and how can we, or how do we help young men find their identity? How did you all find your identity?
I found my identity in Christ, just seeking what I want to be different. Not so much of a follower of the leader.
So yeah, I would agree with what he said. Like, it comes from Christ, from God himself. But a lot of times it's also maintaining your identity. Because like we grow, we all grow, we all develop over time. So it's like just being firm on your morals, being firm on your values, being firm on the word of God, and just following that. And it's like if somebody does something that goes against the word of God, because your faith and your identity is built on that, it won't cause you to stumble or fall or do anything that's out of your character, because your character has been developed by Christ.
One of the big things for me was to not get caught up in what I did. In other words, when people ask, who are you? Oh, I'm a carpenter, or oh, I play football. Like, so often we're identified by what we do, but that's what we do, that's not who we are. And as it relates to anger, especially with these young men, you know, one of the ministries my wife and I are involved with, they talk about a lot of lives can be impacted and grow and have a positive impact if they have one strong, solid, safe relationship. And I think that's where a lot of us as young men lose our identity, because we don't have that one safe relationship. You know, for me early on, it was my mom. Because my dad was a businessman and traveled a lot and stuff, but mom was like always there. She was the one that brought me to school, and I could confide in her and stuff like that. I had a big brother and big sister, but they were the cause of some of my anger. I couldn't beat them up; they were bigger than me, so I beat everybody else up. And so that was kind of anger that I had. But I think to be able to help young people develop an identity is to start speaking life into them. Because if you hear a lie enough, you're going to believe it. So if we start speaking the truth, I used to work at the Boys and Girls Club, and one of the famous quotes that I used to share with people, I heard somebody say that a child's mind is like an empty bag, and we get to determine what goes into it. And I have a grandson right there. I don't believe in bad children. I believe children make bad decisions based on what they're exposed to and what they're taught and what they're allowed to get away with. So if we're not able to discipline and exemplify and set an example, then it's going to perpetuate itself into each generation. And part of the discipline that we got to remember it worked. We can't give our kids everything that they want and not give them the stuff they need and then expect them to be responsible adults. And babies that have tantrums grow up to be adults that have tantrums.
That's a really good point. I think that we fail to realize that some of these young people in the world today are just having tantrums, right? And we, as I'll speak for me, I'm a mother. I don't have any sons, right? So I'm not raising any male children. But how is it being raised in our as just John and Michael being raised one in a 2-parent home and then one in a single parent home, and finding your identities and safe spaces?
Stop.
Well, I kind of have my parents. I'll take away anything from her what she did already. What she was supposed to do as a mom, still is. But my grandparents just seem like they did, especially my grandfather, stuff like that. So just seeing how he moved and seeing how people respected him, it encouraged me to be the person that I am today.
So for me, growing up with both my parents, I don't think I realized how much of a blessing that was coming up. A lot of my friends, like, they either had both their parents and their parents are separated, or they don't have a dad, or they don't have a mom. It was kind of rare. Like, a lot of my friends ain't had both their parents. So it's just, I feel like it gave me a lot more, like, self-control, well-roundedness, being able to, like, see different situations, deal with certain people, have compassion. I get that from my mother, but also understanding how to have confidence and live, like, go about life as a man. Like, from my dad, it's like learning more discipline and self-control. And I don't have as much trauma as other people do because I don't have those same childhood battles of abandonment, rejection that other people had to face, not having their parents. So, like, I don't know, I feel like when you have both parents in a household, like, that's what God intended. It develops you. You don't have as many missing pieces in your identity and who you are because you got two different sides kind of sewn into you. So, like, yeah,
That's really good point. Really good point. So I'll kind of switch a little bit into careers. Deacon Hampton mentioned it a little bit, but when we think of careers and success, right? How do we define success? Because I think that's another problem that some of the younger generation has had. And like, I'm not successful if I'm not, right? So, what other ways can one be successful without going to college? Because we kind of, the society now shoves that down throats. But what are some other ways that we can be successful without going to college? Or what does success look like to you?
I have a unique perspective because I went into the Air Force 7 days after I graduated from high school. And part of that was because my parents were together for 25 years and they split up in December of my senior year and I was the baby. So I just wanted to get out of there and kind of let them figure it out and do their thing. But you have to understand, it goes back to identity. Success isn't stuff. And the reason I say I have a unique perspective is because in the military, they have a rank structure that you can aspire to. And it goes all the way up to what they call E9, which is 8 stripes. I ended up retiring as an E6, so I missed 3 of them. Or didn't, qualify, whatever. And when I retired, I did 21 years. My wife was with me for 19 of them. And when I retired, my kids were there, and they were calling me dad. Why do I say this? Because my idea of success is spiritual, financial, relational, emotional, and physical. Like, it's a holistic thing. So I had to realize that I had a successful career even though I didn't make all the rank. Because I saw people that made the rank that were drunks. I saw people that made the rank that were on their divorce and on their second and third marriage. I was deployed with a guy whose kids called him Jake because he was gone so much they didn't know him as dad. So to be hands-on with my kids and to be hands-on with my wife and to be able to make decisions and have Jesus Christ as my personal Savior and know who I am, and you know, I dealt with PTSD and all this stuff, but I didn't have it as bad as so many others. So I viewed it as success because I had a holistic community around me. I had a spiritual mother and father. I had my mother and father. I had some good mentors along the way. I had my family. You know, I was blessed and fortunate enough to absorb a couple other kids into the fold that I call my own. You know, the joke is I have 2 kids by birth and 6 by worth, but to be able to sow into somebody and be received, to me that's success. Leaving an impact. To me it's a success when your kids know you love them. To me it's success. It's not about having all this money and being able to travel, because you can make all kinds of memories broke. And most of the stuff that we remember and hold on to in tough times has nothing to do with money. You know, so even that movie, The Happiness, Pursuit of Happiness, when they interviewed the kid that actually was raised by the father, he said, my dad was always there. Them being poor, them being broke wasn't the issue for him. His father's presence was the issue. And so I thank God I was able to have a presence in my son's life so that even when he strayed to taste the world, for lack of a better term, we saw the biblical revelation in his life because we dedicated him as a baby, like some of these kids running around. So rather than cry and worry, we just went back to God like, he dedicated him to you. You know you're not done with him. And here he is now. So I'm successful in the sense that I've defined my success through God. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have God to do that with. So I would say it goes back to identity and goal setting for success. But, you know, unfortunately, some people view it as if I got the ice, if I got the car, the whip, whatever you call it. I like that stuff, but that's not what I view as success. So again, it's the fivefold holistic approach to success, because I keep God first, the other stuff will come.
So personally, how I view success is like my dad said, is impact, but it's also for me just being able to continue to persevere, continue to just not only accomplish goals, but accomplish what God has called you to accomplish. But I feel like when we all die and it's our time to go, like I want to look back at life like I did everything God called me to do. I help people, like I hope other people grow, I hope other people come to God, I hope other people develop into the best version of themselves. So I feel like success is more like, I feel like you don't actually obtain success until you like die. You know what I'm saying? So it's more like, I think success is more of a journey, and I think it's more of what you leave behind when you're gone.
All right, so now we have had your perspective on success. One of the reasons we wanted to have this panel discussion is because we see the need for male mentorship, right? There are some programs around that are doing mentoring, and my husband pointed out something very important to me, is not every man can be a mentor. Right. There are some men who are just really good, solid men. They're successful. They do great things, but they're not called, so to speak, to be a mentor. Right. So what, in your opinion, makes a strong male role model?
Well, one, I would say integrity. Just be strong mentally. Somebody that's just able, just they stand their ground. You know what I'm saying? Like they stand on their moral, they stand on their principles. And like Jesus, obviously, is like the best example of a mentor, of somebody you should follow. So I just think about his character. That's the word, character. To me, a great mentor is somebody that has high character, that also has compassion, empathy, loves people, but knows how to love people. Like, you can love somebody, but love them the wrong way, and they won't hear what you're trying to teach them, or they won't accept it. So I feel like a mentor should be somebody that could, like a coach, like a good coach knows how to teach people in a clear way that helps them teach better. So I just look at it like integrity, character, somebody that is adaptable, be able to help you with your issues and help you develop into the right person. You know what I'm saying? I don't got the right word.
I know that. Couple words come to mind when I think about a good mentor. And even the concept of a mentor, I think, can be vague for some people. In some of the arenas that I travel, they talk about a mentor is like a tour guide, and a coach is like a travel agent. Like the travel agent says, good luck, have a good trip. But a mentor is like a tour guide. They meet you there, and they are involved with the process with you. So if I live in Dover and you come to Dover as a mentor, I'm not going to tell you where to go. I'm going to meet you there and show you where to go. So now I have a vested interest as a mentor. You're not mentoring if you don't have a vested interest. It's about relationship. And like John said, with character is what you do when nobody else is looking. And that should carry over. Like they say, if I stub my toe, you're going to know whether I've been in the world or in the Word by the words that come out of my mouth. And so as a mentor, it's the same thing. If your heart's pure towards that person and you really want to see the best of them, then you're not going to accept the worst without challenging them to be the best, if that makes any sense. Because there's a kid that I mentor who I had to hang up on him a couple times because he used to argue with his mom and disrespect her. But now he's come so far over the last couple of years. But I told him I don't have the capacity to sit here and allow you to disrespect your mother while I'm listening. I'm hanging up. And now that doesn't happen, right? But it was a process. And even my wife, last time she talked to him, she was so impressed with where he is now. She was ready to strangle him when she first met him. So being around to help them grow, to watch them grow, and to empower them to grow, to me is what makes a good mentor. And also, let's be honest, a mentor should have some fruit of their own. Because how can I teach you how to do something that I haven't done?
All right, so our next question. What does a male need to feel supported in his emotions and goals? What does he need, whether it be from his family, from his community? What do males need to feel supported in their emotions and their goals?
Say having confidence in yourself.
How can you get
Confidence.
How do you build it?
There's a lot of ways to build confidence beyond. Figure out where you struggle at. For me, I struggle with talking in front of a lot of people. So I started, I'm just giving my experiences. I do music, so I started being around people that I don't know. I ain't trying to make it sound like I'm just talking about myself, but it's just being around different people that I don't know, just being around strangers, and just putting myself in just these positions where I have to make myself talk. Like today, like I was a little shy, but I'm out here. I'm just speaking because it's being open. That's basically, So
You're not shy.
I appreciate it.
So one thing I would say for me personally, I feel like as men, especially black men, I feel like a lot of us don't know how to be vulnerable and don't trust people to be vulnerable around. Cause like I know I've been in situations like before Christ with a girl or whatever, and like I open up to her and then argument happens and she wanna throw it back in my face. That type of stuff makes men not want to open back up. And then it's just I feel like to support our emotional things, understanding that we're still healing. Like I know a lot of women are healing, and I feel like as men, a good man is gonna support their woman in their healing. But I feel like it goes both ways. Like if one, I feel like the experience each man has, you have to understand their experiences, to understand why they respond a certain way, why they react a certain way, why we think a certain way. And I feel like if you don't understand somebody's past, you won't be able to support them where they're going, to support them emotionally where they are right now. It's all a process to get there.
I like that. That's good.
As men, my personal opinion, from the community for supporting our emotions and our goals, we need to first be acknowledged as individuals, because very often we're thrown into that bucket of generality. Everybody has a history, everybody has a trigger, everybody has a weakness, everybody has trials and tribulations, and they're all individual to the individual. So I think the support we need emotionally is a level of patience, but also a level of accountability. Because if we're allowed to mess up and not accountable for what the cost of that mess up is, it starts to shape who we are, and that goes back to that trying to be tough. Like from 13 to 21, I lost a friend every single year. And back in the day, we poured a 40 out on the curb for the person that wasn't here, and then you drink and do the same dumb stuff they was doing, and then in hindsight, you look back over your life like, I was doing what I was taught. Because as it related to community for goals, if you go ask the average middle schooler what they want to be when they grow up, no black boy gonna say football, basketball. And half of them don't own one and don't realize the work it's going to take to make that thing true because they weren't taught. So in society, we need to be taught. Like you said, how can you be successful without college? You need to recognize the stats from college. 65% of college graduates don't even have a job working in the degree that they got. But they have to build it along with it, so they're starting their adult life strapped financially. So is it the be all end all? No. Now certificates, licenses, apprenticeships, and all these different things with different skill sets, you can have the same level of success without the level of debt. You know, and the world has changed so much, there's so many different ways to make money. But as it relates to our goals and our emotionalism, if we're taught and able to see the reality of what we're sitting in and where we're positioned, it, you know, like they say, you can't take a journey without knowing your starting point. So as men, I think it would help if we could be taught to identify truly where we are and what we have our hands on, maybe what some of our gifts are. It goes back to that identity. You know, once I know my identity and I know my strength and I know my starting point and my destination, now I'm gonna have a good trip. But if I just run outside and say I'm going to New York and start walking, I'm in trouble. So yeah, I do believe for the community to support us with our emotions and our goals, we need to be treated as individuals and allowed to fail without becoming the failure. You know, I used to tell the kids I mentor, you know, you may have failed, but you're not a failure. You know, you may have made a mistake, but you're not a mistake. And I think that's what will really help us is when we make a mistake, we're not treated like the sum total of that mistake.
I like that. That was very good. Very good. So our last question for this discussion is we're talking about mentoring, and Deacon Hampton has experience, obviously, with mentoring.
Why
Why is it hard to provide correction and guidance to the youth of today?
Right. I realize that they're a lot different than my generation. I was talking to my husband. I'm a millennial, right? I think Michael's a millennial.
I'm in the middle.
You in the middle. Millennial and Gen X, Gen Z, and then I think you're
Gen X.
Gen X. So the different generations. Why is it hard?
I'd like to address that before they do, and I want to see if they agree with me.
To these younger generations.
Yeah. So I want to see if the younger men here agree with you. When I was growing up, we had access to information, but we weren't inundated and overwhelmed with it. It came in drips and drops, and you had to go get it. Now you stumble on way more than your mind can even process. So now it's hard to have an identity when every time you scroll, you're exposed to another identity and another goal and another success and another, there's so much stuff out there. You don't even get a chance to process it. Like they say, sleeping is your brain processing what you got that day. Half of the reason that this generation can't sleep is because they live, eat, breathe on that phone. They say the average person checks their phone 8 different times before their feet hit the floor. They turn the alarm off, they check their email, they see what time it is, they scroll, they swipe, they do all this stuff before they even get up, and half people on the toilet, on the phone. So information inundation is half of the problem, because it's hard to sort through the information when it's coming faster than you can sort through it. So it's kind of hard, and I want to restate the question because I don't remember it clearly because I just went off on a tangent of my own thinking. What was the actual question?
Why is it hard to provide correction and guidance?
It's hard to provide correction because everybody's empowered to be you. And what I mean by that is because you feel that way, you're not wrong. Even if how you feel hurts somebody else. Like everybody has permission now, so you can't correct people because everywhere you go with the scrolling in the information world, you're getting a different take. So what's the word? Confirmation bias. If I feel like I should be able to just smack you when I want to, I'm going to find information that feeds that. And now the more I see information that feeds how I feel, I become more and more right in my own mind, and you can't correct me. And because we're in the information age, you can Google whatever it is that you want to feel, that you want to be, and now you can feed that. So I think the reason it's so hard to correct people of this generation is because they've been empowered to feel right even if they're not.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But also another point, people can't accept correction because a lot of times it feels like condemnation. And it's like with conviction, like it's the same thing. It's I feel like people can't tell the difference between conviction and condemnation. For example, yeah, people feel like they're being judged so much. And like my dad said, now it's promoted like you do what you want to do. Nobody can tell you, you make that decision, it's your life. So it's like, as soon as somebody tries to give you any correction, you feel like they judge you, they criticize you, they condemn you, telling you you're wrong, when in reality, they're just trying to lead you the right direction. So a lot of times it's like, it goes back to identity. They identify themselves by their own perspective and won't allow anybody else's perspective to help them. And it's also like, who are you? Like certain people, we won't take correction from somebody that we feel like we don't have no respect for. So it's like, if I don't respect the way you carry yourself, I don't respect the things you do, what you stand for, anything you tell me, it's not going to matter. Like, I'm just going one ear out the other. It doesn't have weight. Yeah. So it's like consistency too. Because it's like, if you're seeing, like I was a manager at Wendy's, so I work with a lot of teenagers. Like, I was always in there like kind of preaching to them, trying to tell them like some mistakes I made, try to help them get away from that. Before they wasn't listening to me, but like now that I left, and it's starting to see some certain things change, and I was consistently showing them the same thing and showing them I was just being me, and I was showing them like the character and integrity. Now they're coming to me asking me questions. Now they're like listening, they're taking in that advice, and they're like, okay, he knows what he's talking about. A lot of times that correction, it can't just be a one-time thing. It's a process, because people gotta see. They gotta see that you are actually what you're saying. You're actually doing what you're saying. And so yeah, consistency.
That's good.
Both of them, to be honest. I don't really have nothing to say about it. I agree with both of them, so I don't really have nothing to say about it.
I got one other thing to add to that. The one other thing I wanted to add to it, I've heard this said, and it makes a lot of sense. So if you want to impress somebody, tell them how much you succeeded. If you want to impact somebody, tell them how much you failed. And sometimes you can't correct people when you're coming from the platform of success because you haven't been vulnerable. Like we talk about, where a lot of men aren't willing to be vulnerable, so I always gotta look like I'm winning. But anybody that knows anything about winning knows you fail all the way to the win. Failure is the number one part of winning, because you have to have the opportunity to fail in order to have the opportunity to win. You know, and the greatest, most successful people have a whole lot of failures that they built on before they got the win. But if we're not vulnerable enough to share and show that, it's a lot harder to get the respect from this generation that my son was talking about, because all they see is the success, and it looks like all my fruit is just good. Nobody has all just good fruit. So if I can share my vulnerability and my mistakes like he did with his staff, now you have something to talk about when they come through, because you shared, and now they're like, wow, that's happened to me, so maybe I can talk to him. I'm not approachable or able to have influence to correct you if you don't know me. So if I can share that vulnerability and failure, now you know a little bit insight into me, so now maybe I can help correct you.
Also, just being able to understand the generation. Like, I know if people don't feel understood, they're not going to take anything from you too. Like, for example, if a kid grew up homeless, or they came moms on drugs or something like that, and people just undermine their issues. You know, a lot of people, they feel like their problems are the biggest problems on earth. Yeah. So it's like, it's also getting to that point, it's like, if I could understand what you're going through, and being able to relate to you in a way, then it's easier to give them correction, because they understand, like, okay, you do get what I'm going through to an extent. And it's easier, it kind of softens the hurt a little bit, it's easier to talk to them. So.
I like that. So what I'm hearing is we need to be more relatable, right? And we need to not exemplify or exacerbate mistakes that are being made for these young people coming up in this generation. That's how we reach them. Because that's the goal. We want to reach the younger generations, because as females, as mothers, we don't want to continue to see other mothers losing their sons, right? Or their daughters, because I believe a young girl was murdered as well. So we don't want to continue to see them losing their children at all. So we want to figure out a way that we can reach this generation, and we can tell them, one, that we love them, two, that we care, and that there's a better way. Right? There's a song I really like by Marvin Lyons, and it says, "Who's gonna tell them?" And that's exactly what it says.
They need to know they matter. They need to know they matter, yeah.
Exactly, that they
have
matter.
a voice and they matter.
How do we do that? How do we go about expressing that to a way, expressing that in a way to these younger generations without causing them to shy away or being like real pushy? Because I think sometimes we can call real pushy.
Right. I can only speak from my experience, and I have one example that I use all the time. I used to be administrative supervisor at Boys and Girls Club in Milford, a couple of the kids or whatever. And what I learned was, when a child gets in trouble and you bring them to them, I've never had a child say, you know, Mr. John, man, I made a mistake, and they don't do that. They need somebody to blame first. So the first question I would always ask was, who did it? Once they told on Marvin, and got everything out about what Marvin did, then my response was, "No, what did you do?" And they were a lot more open to share what they did, how they responded, or what their mistake was, because they were able to have a voice first. So the way you make them or help them or empower them to matter is to listen to them. I don't have to agree with what you said, but I need to respect you enough to listen to you. And I think the mistake we make as adults, and I've done it to my son, I'll correct him before he's finished telling me what I think it is he's trying to say, and then I shut him down because that tone, as parents, we got tone. And so we have to learn, I'm growing, we have to learn to listen. My mentor said you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We always pause after we say it so it can sink in. So we have to be able to, in order to empower youth to trust us, to listen to us, to hear us, is we first need to empower them and let them know they have a voice and that they matter. And then they might be a little more inclined to share and a little more inclined to hear when we do have something to say.
You said something that I really like. You said your mentor. So that lets me know that you have someone that mentors you. I have someone who mentors me in this nonprofit world. Share what I have with him today. So how important is it for you guys to have a mentor? Do you all have mentors or someone that you kind of look up to for guidance in your walk?
I don't want to monopolize, fellas, I'm sorry. But I have a mentor in multiple areas, financial, spiritual, all of it. Because not everybody that is mentoring me in one place has the fruit that I need or desire in another place. So, as the baby of the family, I always watched everybody. And that helped me as an adult because I realized that I can learn from anybody and I have to be humble enough and vulnerable enough to realize I don't have all the answers, because if I did, I'd be where I want to be. So, I guess I have several mentors, and I'm even being mentored by my son in certain areas, my wife in certain areas, my daughter, because they have experience I don't. I had a sheltered life. I used to joke with my wife that she had a sheltered life, but it turns out I was the one that had a sheltered life. So I was trusting people too much. I was giving people too much latitude in my life because I hadn't been burned like that. I didn't recognize that a lot more people have trauma than not. I was like ignorant to that. So we have to recognize that we don't have all the answers, but God has empowered us with a network and a community where we can get all the answers we need.
No mentors? But how important do you think it is to have a mentor? If you don't have one, how important do you think that it is in this day and age to have a mentor?
I think it's very important because I feel like too many of us we try to handle everything by ourselves. Like, oh, I got it, I can handle it, that's partially pride, but it's also kind of how society teaches us. Like, as men, you gotta be able to do this, do that, and then it's all these stigmas and stereotypes that are put on us, especially on social media, especially like with the worldview of it. So it's like a lot of times we kind of push away anybody that can help us, or we push away anything that can challenge us and develop us because it just makes us uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's like, if we really want to be who God called us to be, if we really want to be able to take care of our families, be better husbands, fathers, brothers, sons, etc., like, we need people that are doing that can sow into us. Like, I believe everybody needs a spiritual mentor, financial mentor, like physical mentor, all aspects, because you can't, it's harder to get to a goal when you don't have nobody that's been there that can show you how to get there. So it's like, even spiritually, like, I have certain people that if I have questions or if I need, like, I'm trying to learn something spiritually, I can talk to them and they can give me, and they can teach me, because I've only been on my walk not even 3 years yet. And so it's people that's been doing it for 40 years. So of course they have more wisdom, they have more knowledge. Like, I'll go through a season and my mom keeps telling me, like, it's just a season. Like, this is part of it. Like, I'm getting discouraged and all that, but it's like what the Bible says, don't forsake the fellowship of the saints or the community, because it's like we lean on each other, especially like as the body of Christ. Like, we need the body. They said the body hurts if one of them not working correctly. So it's like we need each other to be able to strengthen each other and get together. Like I believe God has allowed us to have community for a reason. Like that's how we grow. That's how we. Like I think about it like even when somebody starts a business, nobody wants to support you until you start making moves. But it's like if everybody supports you at the bottom, you'll make moves quicker. And then they can learn or they can come up with you, and it's easier to do that. But it's all that, it's the individuality of it, and it's like crabs in a bucket, all that type stuff, all the negative stuff that comes with it. It's like we need people that just can show into us and teach us better principles and stuff to help us develop better, so we can pass it down to the generation.
I don't have any mentors, but I know it's probably definitely important to have a mentor. Just going off of what you guys are saying, just I should start, seeking a mentor.
Right.
Just off of what you
And I think that that's a good thing to say you start seeking a mentor, because it doesn't matter what age you are, right? Mentorship is important, right? So we all can find ourselves in a space where a mentor can help us, whether it be in business or whether it be in our spiritual walk or whether it just be in parenting. That's a whole other conversation, right?
Everybody thinks you're supposed to figure it out.
Right, yeah.
That's a daily growth.
It's not easy, and it takes time, and it takes learning from someone else.
The phases change.
So I want to thank you three gentlemen for joining us for this discussion today, for coming out and supporting Nisha and her goals and her dreams to really start making moves and bettering our young men. Please continue to look for us. We might reach out again with more help as we try to create a positive environment and culture for these young gentlemen that are coming up. Because it really is our desire not to see another mother lose child in that way to gun violence, to something that can be preventable, right? So again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you everyone for listening. Yeah, I'm going to give it over to you, John, because I believe you're going to spit a couple bars for us. Did I say it?
I'm a little no more. Didn't check that TSA. I get them boys up PSA. Please check the school. Believers that's flowing through my DNA. Christ, he breathe that life in me. Why would I get my breath away to smoke? I've been there before with 3-5 in that wood that isn't dope. I've been there before with so stuck in that dark. Now I got hope. Hope you know that we some real soldiers. Find me in the presence of the Lord. That's where I've been posted. This a different from the game I'm speaking. Yes, I've been sober. Devil's time is up. Oh wait, I'm tripping. His time been over. Hope you know that we some real soldiers. Find me in the presence of the Lord, that's where I've been posted. This a different from the game I'm speaking, yes, I've been sober. Devil's time is up, but wait, I'm tripping, his time been over. Pop out, sinners lurking, watch out. Free with purpose, Jesus coming back for certain right now. Close the curtain, act accordingly, the serpent timed out. I was hurting, used to think that I was worthless, not now. Many churches so religious, with the spirit this ain't hitting. I'm just strengthening my armor, loading up the ammunition. Tap into that living water, clean me up like dirty dishes. I was drowning in my sorrow, nearly swimming with the fishes. If you struggling to find a light, I might give you a hint. If you struggling to face the tide, I pray it don't go red. If that lust got you so hypnotized, you gotta flee from it. Cause when judgment day do come, your time is up and that is it. Hope you know that we some real souls. Find me in the presence of the Lord, that's where I've been posted. This is a different time to get my speaking, yes I've been sober. Devil's time is up, oh wait, I'm tripping, his time been over. Hope you know that we some real souls. Find me in the presence of the Lord, that's where I've been posted. This a different time to get my speaking, yes I've been sober. Devil's time is up, oh wait, I'm tripping, his time been over. Your time is up, Satan. Yeah, it's up for you. All smoke. All gas, no brakes, you know the vibe. Holy gang in here, man. Baby, I ain't catching no case. I said you don't care what they say. Baby, y'all ain't catching no case. I said Jesus don't care what they say. They gon' judge you for back in the day. Tell the devil get back in your place. Holy Spirit come fill me up. Can't believe it in Christ, man, I'm changed. I done found my identity. Young seated in heavenly places. Fill me up. That living water. water, fill my cup. Don't need no ice, well, cold enough. You just need Christ more than enough. Give you my life, Lord, lift me up. I ride for Christ, Lord, turn me up. You give me life, I feel the rush. No longer am I feeling all that pain is just proof you alive. Living for Christ, I don't want you to die. They be switching the truth with the lies. He a wolf, I can peep his disguise. Gotta test all these spirits ain't right. Playing seeds cause the root never dies. Life's a 10, I ain't living on 9 lives. Live forever, I know Jesus Christ. Please do get up on my way, cause I'm on this narrow road and I ain't got no time for breaks. Like please do get up on my way, cause I'm on this narrow road and I ain't got no time for breaks. Back up, resisting the devil. Back up, the spirit is with me. Tag up, the devil is dumb to attack us. I know, trying to live righteous the way that we on. Saving these souls is the way that we go. Heavenly places, I'm near to the throne. I don't got time to be risking my soul. I ain't catching no case. I serve Jesus, don't care what they say. They gon' judge you for back in the day. Tell the devil, get back in your place. Holy Spirit, come fill me up. Can't believe it in Christ, man, I'm changed. I done found my identity. Yeah, I'm seated in heavenly places. Fill me up, yeah. That living water, fill my cup. Don't need no ice, well, cold enough. You just need Christ more than enough. Give you my life, Lord, lift me up. I ride for Christ, Lord, turn me up. You give me life, I feel the rush. No longer am I feeling
And we just thank you, and we look forward to being able to network and do more things to support our communities. So, and also, I'm so sorry. Thank you to Vincent for doing our video on today. Make sure you get in contact with all of these vendors and these community resources just to be able to service our community. So thank you for today.